Hi everyone, I'm Shaylin here with Reedsy. So today I'm back with another Q&A. If you have any questions that you want answered in an upcoming video, whether that's about the content of one of our videos, a problem with your own writing, or just a general writing and publishing question, you can leave that in the Google form linked in the description. Alright, so this first question is a bit of a long one, so here we go. I enjoy books with multiple character perspectives, where every few chapters is another person's point of view. I am writing a book using multiple POVs, and my question is this: how do you best plan and or balance switching perspectives with entirely new side characters? How do you not get overwhelmed with the idea that you have two main characters and basically two plots who are completely different from each other? And also I should note that the two main characters do not meet each other for some time, but their stories do eventually collide. I would really challenge yourself to just view it as a cohesive whole, and these two stories are part of a cohesive whole. So ask yourself, even if the characters don't meet for some time, how do they speak to each other? How do they echo each other? What are we building towards? You know this endpoint. You know that eventually the stories are going to collide. So you actually know that these aren't separate stories. They are actually part of the same story. You know that endpoint. And you want the reader to feel that endpoint, the tension of that endpoint, you know, even if they don't know when or how it's going to happen. So just as a mindset, instead of feeling like, oh, this is so overwhelming, I'm basically writing two books at once, you really are just writing one book that has multiple dimensions. If you're really overwhelmed, I think tools like outlining can help in this case, so that you don't have to, second guess yourself. You can just really plot out the story and write it scene by scene by scene, one step at a time. And I would also just think about how you're balancing the pace. You can use the stories to aid the pacing of the other. If one storyline is in a slower section, heighten the pace in the other point of view so that you're kind of keeping up tension and keeping up pace even when one story is in a quieter section. This is a great way to manage pacing and help get through a slower section in one character's perspective. If you have something really, really intense in one POV, you can then follow it up with like a quiet, warm, quiet scene in the other's perspective. And so I would just think about that balance and how these two storylines can work together to kind of create a sense of cohesive emotional pacing so that when you're reading it, it actually does feel seamless. The next question is, how do you identify useless scenes? This is a great question because it's a great first step in editing to cut useless scenes, but how do you identify a useless scene? Useless scenes essentially are scenes where if you were to cut them, it wouldn't harm the narrative. So I would look for points where you feel like a scene doesn't have any consequences. So you can remove that scene. Let's say you have scene A, B, and C. If you remove scene B, the transition between A and C is still just as seamless. You're not missing anything. The story still makes sense. If the story makes perfect sense when you remove a scene, it's probably not doing anything. I would also look for scenes where the purpose they are fulfilling is extremely small. So if a scene is ultimately kind of useless, but it just is there to share a very small piece of information, see if you can weave that piece of information into a more useful scene that's a more concrete, cohesive part of the narrative. The next question is about underwriting. It goes, underwriting, how do you reverse this and become an overwriter, or better, succinct enough to hit that sweet spot, perfect word count? First of all, I wouldn't aim to necessarily become an overwriter if you're an underwriter. I'm a bit more of an underwriter myself. I wouldn't say that it's better to be an overwriter. They both come with their own challenges, so I don't think you want to overly course correct. Now, how do you get to that perfect point where your drafts are exactly where they need to be? Very few people can do that. But I had a similar journey for you. I used to be a big underwriter, and now my first drafts are, they are a tiny bit underwritten, but it's usually not so severe. It's maybe 5,000 words under, where they used to need an extra 30%. My recommendation for that would be slow down. Slow down your drafting process. The reason I was underwriting from personal experience is because I was fast drafting. For me, it was more worthwhile to draft more slowly, but have a draft that was kind of pretty close to where I needed it to be, than to fast draft and then need to go back and add an extra 30%, right? In the end, it just wasn't worth it, because drafting out of order after the fact is more complicated and difficult for me than just drafting as much as I can on that first draft. So if you're similar to me, my recommendation would be slow down. Just slow down your drafting process. Find that really helps. So that's all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos from us. We've got new writing, editing, and publishing tips every Friday on this channel. Until next time, bye.